My name is Sofia. For a long time, I lived with something I couldn't put into words. Outwardly, I seemed fine, smiling at work, chatting with friends. But inside, I carried a storm. Every sound, every smell could drag me back to the moment my life was torn apart. That invisible weight had a name: post-traumatic stress disorder. But I need you to hear this. PTSD doesn't define me. PTSD isn't just about feeling sad. It's reliving your worst memories over and over, even when you least expect it. For me, it could be as simple as sipping coffee. Suddenly, I wasn't in my kitchen anymore. I was back in that terrifying moment, heart racing, body shaking, my mind hijacked by the past. Flashbacks are like being trapped in a movie you don't want to watch and you can't press stop. The hardest part of PTSD is how invisible it can be. On the outside, I looked perfectly normal. I kept working, smiling, showing up for birthdays. But inside, I was in survival mode. My brain was constantly scanning for danger, even when none was there. It felt like fighting a war that no one else could see, and that made me feel so desperately alone. Nighttime wasn't a relief. It was another battlefield. I dreaded sleep because my dreams weren't peaceful. They were nightmares, vivid and suffocating. I'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, heart pounding as if I'd just run a marathon. Nightmares are one of the cruelest parts of PTSD. Instead of resting, you're forced to relive what broke you. One night, I woke up screaming so loudly that I scared myself. My neighbors knocked on the wall. My heart felt like it would burst, and in that moment, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change. That night became the turning point that pushed me to ask for help. When people hear PTSD, most think of soldiers. Yes, many veterans live with PTSD, but trauma isn't limited to war zones. It can come from accidents, abuse, disasters, or loss. Trauma is anything that overwhelms your ability to cope, and anyone can experience it. The stigma that PTSD only belongs to certain people kept me silent for too long. It took everything in me to say the words, "I think something is wrong." With shaky hands, I told my doctor about the flashbacks, the nightmares, the panic. I thought they would think I was weak, but instead, my doctor listened, really listened. That was the first step toward healing. When my doctor said the words post-traumatic stress disorder, I froze. Part of me felt broken, like a label had been stamped on me forever. But another part of me felt relief. At last, my pain had a name. Naming it meant I could start facing it. Diagnosis isn't the end, it's the beginning of recovery. Walking into therapy was terrifying. I felt exposed, like I was carrying a suitcase filled with memories I didn't want anyone to see. But the therapist didn't judge. She explained that PTSD wasn't about weakness. It was my brain trying to protect me from danger that had already passed. Therapy became a place where I could lay those memories down, one by one. In therapy, I learned that PTSD lives in the brain's alarm system, the amygdala. Mine was stuck on high alert, reacting to harmless triggers as if they were life-threatening. Understanding that my body wasn't betraying me, it was protecting me, helped me feel less ashamed. Knowledge gave me power. Therapy gave me tools, breathing techniques to calm panic, grounding exercises to remind me I'm safe, journaling to untangle my racing thoughts. At first they felt awkward, like learning to walk again. But slowly, these tools became my armor against the chaos inside. Recovery wasn't a straight line. There were days I thought I was getting better, only to be slammed by a flashback or panic attack. Those setbacks crushed me at first, but my therapist reminded me, healing isn't about never falling, it's about getting back up each time. For months, I kept my PTSD hidden. I thought my family wouldn't understand, but secrets kept me isolated. One evening, I told them. My voice shook, tears streamed down, but I said it. I have PTSD. To my surprise, they didn't look at me with pity. They hugged me tighter. They said, "We'll walk this with you." That moment broke my loneliness. Support isn't just about family. It's friends, co-workers, and communities too. The more I shared, the more I found others quietly living with PTSD. Together, we shared resources, comfort, and hope. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. I was part of a community of survivors. For too long, mental health was treated like a secret shame. But I realized silence keeps stigma alive. So I started speaking up, online, at work, with friends. Each time I said, I live with PTSD, I chipped away at the walls of misunderstanding. Stigma loses power when truth steps into the light. For me, therapy wasn't enough. My doctor suggested medication to help calm my nervous system. At first, I resisted. I wanted to be strong without pills. But I learned that taking medication wasn't weakness. It was one more tool, just like therapy. Sometimes healing means accepting help in all its forms. Healing also meant changing how I lived. Exercise helped release stress. Mindful eating gave me balance. Sleep routines calmed my nights. These weren't instant fixes, but each habit stitched a little more peace into my life. The more I healed, the more space I found for joy. I started painting again, a hobby I'd abandoned. I laughed more freely. I dreamed of traveling, of living fully instead of hiding in survival. PTSD was still with me, but it no longer owned me. One of the most healing parts of my journey was helping others. I joined a peer support group, sharing what I'd learned. Each time I told my story, I saw the same relief I once felt. The relief of knowing you're not alone. Healing becomes stronger when it's shared. Today, I still live with PTSD, but it doesn't define me. It's part of my story, not the whole of it. Healing is messy, hard, and ongoing, but I've found strength I didn't know I had. And if you're watching this, struggling in silence, please remember, you are not broken, you are not alone, and your story isn't over.